Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how our unelected Brexit Minister David Frost has said that the conditions to trigger Article 16 to suspend the Northern Ireland Protocol have been met, and explain how this is not only untrue, but Article 16 does not allow him to do what he is claiming. So is he just ignorant, or is this more hot air, more threats that he has no intention of carrying out? After all, he hasn't carried them out, has he? But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, few things to go over here in terms of this Article 16 nonsense again. First thing is what David Frost was telling the House of Lords in Parliament this week. He said, and I quote, "The command paper sets out the tests to use Article 16 are met. I urge the EU to take this seriously." So let's look at that first of all. He says that the conditions to trigger Article 16 are met. Now, there is this nonsense that Article 16 allows for the unilateral suspension of the Northern Ireland Protocol if one side thinks that it's causing problems. It doesn't, not on any level. The article doesn't use the term, at one point it does use the term unilaterally, but only in relation to applying safeguarding measures. Now I'm going to put a link down below to the latest blog from constitutional legal expert David Alan Green. Rather than repeat it all myself, he explains it very well. Needless to say, how Article 16 actually works is it allows for a forum to work out remedies to problems arising. But I want to point out a few things in the Article 16 itself. The first thing is that nowhere, and it's not a long article, it's only a few lines, in nowhere does it state that the protocol may be suspended. This is a fantasy created by Brexiteers and followed through by a complicit media who rely on people not bothering to read the 13 lines of text for themselves. The second thing to point out is in amongst these 13 lines, it twice states that the safeguards must be ones that least disturb the functioning of the protocol. So it isn't even just that the article doesn't explicitly allow for the suspension of the protocol. You can't even argue that it's implicit, because it does explicitly state that the protocol must function as required by the treaty as far as is possible. So even when Article 16 is triggered, what happens first of all, discussions take place to seek solutions to the perceived problems. So even safeguards can't be implemented to begin with. Nothing can be done unilaterally to begin with. You've got at least a month of talks have to take place first. Frost has got nothing with this, nothing at all that he can use this article for. But here's where we are a bit in the dark. See, we know that Article 16 does not allow for the suspension of the protocol, or even partial changes to it on a whim. We also know that the EU are aware of this. Nobody who was involved in this treaty on the EU side has claimed that they didn't understand it at the time. Only those representing Britain, including David Frost, have claimed such ignorance. What we don't know is what Frost actually understands about the article. It is possible that he understands it perfectly well, or at least accepts the expert legal opinion that he has ready access to, which holds that he can't use it to simply abandon aspects of a treaty that he freely agreed to over a year ago. But it is equally possible that he is playing amateur lawyer and thinks there's enough ambiguity in the text to get away with suspending the protocol by simply claiming that it isn't working in practice. And this is a line that's repeated even in the relatively responsible press. Like, I often hold up the Financial Times, which is not exactly on the side of the people, far from it. It lobbies for big money, it lobbies for the Tories, but it nonetheless reports in a fairly factual manner. But they often say that the Northern Ireland Protocol isn't actually working in its current form. Yes, it is. You highlight anything about the protocol that is perceived to be a problem, and it's actually Brexit that's the problem, not the protocol. And it's really easy. There's a really easy test for this. The protocol is now a matter of UK as well as international law. So there are problems with Britain to Northern Ireland trade. Absolutely there are. So that's the protocol, surely? No. The protocol was British law for 11 months last year, but we didn't have these problems. When did the problems start? Start of this year, when we left the customs union single market. If we rejoined the customs union single market, would the problems go away again? Yes, overnight. The protocol would still be in place. It's a legal treaty. It's going to stay in place. Even if we were to rejoin the customs union single market, that treaty will remain in place. But we will not have the problems that are wrongly associated with it. So then I'd like to go on to what David Frost went on to say. Again, I'll quote. Second, if we are to avoid Article 16, there must be real negotiation between us and the EU. A real negotiation does not mean the EU coming up with its own plans for solutions and presenting them to us as take it or leave it. The negotiations are over, Frosty mate. They ended when he said that they should end. The EU didn't set a deadline for the end of talks to any of the Brexit treaties we arranged. That was us every time. The withdrawal agreement, which includes the Northern Ireland Protocol, was agreed on October 2019. It was then signed into law by this government January 2020. At that point, with the deal signed, sealed and delivered, the negotiations ended. The EU are happy to discuss practical implementations of the treaty. Indeed, they are legally bound to. But the default legal position is the text of the treaty itself. Frost wants to change the text of the treaty itself. The EU neither want nor need to do this. Now, the reality of the situation, of course, is not that this former whiskey salesman didn't actually know what he was doing, that he was genuinely taken aback by what he'd agreed, with slick EU minds, legal minds, and has made a genuine mistake. Frost, Johnson and all the other members of the government knew exactly what the treaty was. There may not have been much debate about it in Parliament, blocked by the same Conservatives who now complain that it wasn't debated properly at the time, but there was plenty of analysis from experts in public. All of the problems identified by the government now were discussed long before they ever signed the deal. The reason we are in this position is because Boris Johnson needed to take us out of the EU in order to cement his power. That's all it is. Brexit is just a power trip for Boris Johnson. There was no agreement that could attract enough votes in Parliament. So the referendum was largely neither here nor there. There was no form of Brexit that could get through Parliament. Even with the Parliament that emerged after he won the election in 2019, there simply weren't the numbers to get any Brexit deal agreed. So the hardline pro-Brexit ERG, the party within a party, they were against the Northern Ireland Protocol. But they voted for it. They agreed to publicly support it, but they did so on Johnson's assurance that he would renege on it later. And here is why we are where we are. Johnson needs to renege on the Northern Ireland Protocol in order to keep the ERG on side, keep himself in power. I'm assuming they are patient and are willing to wait for this to happen, but they do expect it to happen. This is not mere conjecture either. Steve Baker, who was chair of the ERG at the time, said quite publicly last year that this was the agreement with Johnson. So where we are now is that Johnson at least needs to give the impression that he's just building up ammunition to torpedo the protocol. The ERG need to be under the belief that slowly but surely the protocol is going to be dismantled, hence the threats from Frost. But Frost has said that there is already now enough to trigger Article 16 right now. He said that the EU must renegotiate. The EU, of course, refusing to do that, obviously. So any impartial observer, regardless of what they thought about the situation, would see that Frost's bluff is being called. Frost said that the negotiations must begin soon. No date given, of course, and there's a bit of a subjective element to soon, obviously. Is soon a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months? Could be anything. Well, I say it could be anything. There is a limit, surely. If we get to November and Frost still isn't getting what he claims he wants, what then? Surely soon is over by then. Does he then trigger it and suffer the reprisals? And to be clear, those reprisals can be twofold. Firstly, legal action in the UK. It would be a breach of UK law and someone is bound to seek an urgent judicial review of the move. Secondly, the protocol, as well as the trade and cooperation agreement, actually allows the other side to take unilateral action if one side takes their unilateral action. So the EU could take unilateral action against our trade with them if we unilaterally change any part of the treaty without permission. In other words, we could be faced with legal action and trade sanctions, which will surely backfire badly. And how soon are the ERG expecting a resolution to this? And what will they do if they expect something to happen soon? The problem here is, the vital piece of information I have missing is I have no idea what the ERG expect to happen to the protocol and when. You know, but that is a crucial element in trying to determine whether Frost simply continues to sabre rattle ad infinitum or whether he ends up doing something rash out of desperation. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.